Right now, without you doing anything at all, your body is producing something that most people would call absolutely disgusting. It's slimy, constantly being made. And most of the time, you don't even notice it happening because you swallow a huge amount of it every single day without ever thinking about it. We're talking about mucus, not just the stuff that shows up when you're sick and reaching for a tissue. We're talking about a thick, slippery substance that your body produces around the clock, in your nose, your throat, your stomach, your intestines, even in places you'd never expect. It sounds gross. It sounds like something your body would be better off without. But here's the truth. Without it, you wouldn't survive very long at all. So here's the big question for today. Why does your body constantly produce something so slimy, so unglamorous, and honestly, so easy to be grossed out by? And why is this exact substance one of the main things standing between you and serious illness every single day? By the end of this video, you're going to think about mucus in a completely different way, and you might never look at a simple sneeze the same way again. Let's start with the basics. Mucus is produced by specialized cells found throughout your body, particularly along what's called the mucous membranes. These are the moist linings found in your nose, your mouth, your throat, your lungs, your stomach, and your intestines. According to researchers who study this, an average adult produces a surprisingly large volume of mucus every single day, though the exact amount varies quite a bit from person to person and depends on things like hydration, environment, and overall health. Most of it you never even notice because it's constantly being swallowed unconsciously as part of a completely normal, ongoing process. Now, at first glance, this might just sound like your body producing waste. Something extra, something in the way. But mucus isn't waste at all. It's structural. Scientifically speaking, mucus is made up mostly of water, but mixed into that water are specialized proteins called mucins. These mucins have a very unique property. They can trap things. Dust, bacteria, viruses, pollen, basically anything floating in the air that you breathe and gets caught in this slippery layer before it ever has the chance to reach deeper, more vulnerable tissue inside your lungs. Think of it like flypaper, but built directly into your body, lining almost every surface that comes into contact with the outside world. Your nose is often the first line of defense. As air rushes in, mucus lining the nasal passages catches larger particles almost immediately. But your respiratory system doesn't stop there. Deeper down, in your windpipe and your lungs, there are microscopic hair-like structures called cilia. These cilia work in coordination with the mucus layer, constantly moving in a wave-like motion to sweep trapped particles upward and out toward your throat, where they're usually swallowed without you ever noticing. Researchers often describe this entire system using a term you might have heard before, the Mucociliary Escalator. It's essentially a moving staircase made of mucus and tiny hair-like cells, constantly working to carry unwanted material out of your airways. And this isn't a system that only kicks in occasionally when you're sick. It's running continuously, every hour of every day, whether you're aware of it or not. But your respiratory system is only part of the story. Mucus plays an equally important role deep inside your digestive tract. Your stomach, for example, produces a thick layer of mucus that coats its inner walls. This might sound unnecessary at first, until you remember what your stomach actually does. It produces powerful acid, strong enough to help break down food, and in some cases, strong enough to damage biological tissue if left unprotected. That mucus lining acts as a barrier, protecting your own stomach wall from the very acid it produces to digest what you eat. Without that layer, your stomach would essentially be at risk of digesting itself. Your intestines follow a similar principle. Throughout your digestive tract, mucus helps trap harmful bacteria and other unwanted material, while also helping to physically move waste along the system. It even plays a role in supporting the trillions of beneficial bacteria living in your gut, creating an environment where helpful microbes can thrive while limiting the ability of harmful ones to take hold. So by this point, you might be thinking, okay, mucus is useful, mucus is protective, that makes sense. But here's where things get more interesting and a little more complicated than you might expect. You'd probably assume that more mucus is always better. If it protects you, then producing extra should mean extra protection, right? That's exactly the kind of logic that seems obvious, and it's exactly where the story takes an unexpected turn. According to a lot of research into respiratory and digestive health, an overproduction of mucus doesn't necessarily mean your body is protecting itself more effectively. In many cases, it actually reflects your body reacting to irritation, inflammation, or infection. Excess mucus is often a byproduct of your immune system working overtime, not a sign that everything is functioning perfectly. In other words, the same substance that quietly protects you every single day, without any fanfare or attention, can become uncomfortable, even overwhelming, when your body ramps up production in response to a threat. This is exactly why, when you catch a cold, you suddenly become so aware of something your body has been making constantly, your whole life, without you ever noticing. It's not that your body suddenly started doing something new. It's that your body dramatically increased something it was already doing quietly in the background because your immune system detected something that needed to be flushed out more aggressively than usual. And here's the twist that really flips the way most people think about this. Most people assume that mucus, especially when it's excessive or uncomfortable, is a flaw, a malfunction, something your body does wrong, or something inefficient about how we're built. But when researchers look closely at this system, they find something quite different. The exact same qualities that make mucus feel so unpleasant. Its stickiness, its texture, its sheer volume are the very properties that make it so effective as a protective barrier in the first place. If mucus were thin, watery, and easy to ignore, it wouldn't be able to trap particles efficiently. It wouldn't coat surfaces evenly. It wouldn't stay in place long enough to do its job. The very texture that makes people react with disgust is functionally necessary. It's not a design flaw. It's a deliberate feature refined over an extremely long evolutionary history, precisely because it works. In other words, the thing you find most unpleasant about mucus and the thing that makes it biologically effective aren't separate qualities. They're the exact same quality viewed from two completely different angles. What feels gross to you at a conscious, emotional level is, at a mechanical level, a nearly perfect solution to a very specific biological problem. How do you create a barrier that can trap harmful particles, stay in place against gravity and movement, and still allow essential gases and nutrients to pass through when needed? Evolution appears to have landed on mucus as one of the most efficient answers to that question, long before humans ever had a word for disgusting. This pattern actually shows up in a lot of places throughout the human body, if you start looking for it. Many of the bodily functions people find most unpleasant, sweat, for example, or the acidic environment of the stomach, or vomiting as a physical response, aren't glitches or embarrassing accidents. They're precise, evolved mechanisms that solve very real survival problems. Sweat helps regulate your body temperature during physical exertion. Stomach acid breaks down food and helps kill off harmful microorganisms you might have consumed. Even a response like vomiting, unpleasant as it is, exists as a mechanism to rapidly expel something potentially toxic before it can cause more serious harm. The common thread connecting all of these is that our sense of disgust and the biological usefulness of a process are almost completely disconnected from one another. Your instinctive reaction, "That's gross," has almost nothing to do with whether something is actually good or bad for keeping you alive. So why would evolution shape us to feel disgusted by something that's actually protecting us? The most widely supported explanation among researchers is that disgust likely evolved as a behavioral tool, not a biological judgment. Feeling grossed out by mucus, by bodily fluids in general, by decay, by things associated with illness, probably helped our ancestors avoid situations that carried a higher risk of infection or disease. In other words, disgust isn't your body's honest opinion about whether something is helpful or harmful internally. It's more like an external warning system, designed to keep you cautious around things that might carry pathogens when you encounter them outside your own body, in other people, or in your environment. It was never meant to accurately judge what's happening on the inside. This is where it gets personal. Think about the last time you had a cold. You probably felt annoyed